Learn acceleration and braking. Accelerate and come to a complete stop in the stopping area 100 meters ahead. Where you start braking is very important in this challenge. Use signs indicating distance and other markers on the road to time where you apply full braking. Try accelerating and braking with a more powerful car. Accelerate and come to a complete stop in the stopping area 200 meters ahead. You will be going faster than in the first challenge. Once again, find yourself a marker and use it as a braking guide. Try stopping at an even further distance of 400 meters. Come to a complete stop without overrunning the stopping area. As with the previous challenge, you'll want to find a marker and apply full braking. In order to reduce your time, you'll need to bring your car to a halt in the very first part of the stopping area. Try stopping in an even faster car in a smaller stopping area 400 meters ahead. You will need to concentrate on where to start braking. Even the slightest deviation of your braking point will greatly affect your stopping position. Note your marker and adjust your timing accordingly. Try braking in a realistic situation. After starting, decelerate to a safe speed to clear the corner. You will be able to enter the corner safely if you drop your speed to around 40 miles per hour or less. Don't slow down too much, however, or you will lose too much time. Try turning while braking. Learn simultaneous operation of the steering and brakes. Until you get used to the technique, try braking and steering separately. Brake first, then start turning to the right immediately. Try driving an easy-to-handle car around a simple corner. Cross the finish line within the time limit. The angle of the steering will change with the length of time the controls are applied. Try to learn just how long you need to steer to turn the car the appropriate angle. Try tackling a relatively straightforward S-bend. Be careful not to leave the road and head for the goal. In a mild S-bend corner like this, you'll need to minimize the amount of steering and try to go through in a straight line as much as possible. Drive so that you clip the insides of each corner. Drive through a tight radius hairpin corner. Try not to run off the track and head for the finish line. If you try to turn tightly around a hairpin bend, you'll be forced to turn the steering a lot, and you will lose time as a result. Using the driving line as a reference, you need to set your own driving line to go out, in, out. Challenge the Coca-Cola corner on the Fuji Speedway. This is a high-speed corner, so watch your line and maintain your speed as you clear the turn. Setting your driving line is extremely important in a high-speed corner. Always set your clipping point on the inside cornerstone, driving over it with your tyre so that you drive out, in, out. Now for a low-grip dirt track. The first challenge is a gradual corner on the Swiss Alps track. Use the full width of the track and make sure to plot an efficient driving line. The right corner just before the goal is slightly tight and will need some care. Try taking the S-bend in the middle section of the high-speed ring track. You will be in the turn for an extended time, so it will be necessary to control your speed with the accelerator so that you are not forced outward, missing your driving line. Set your driving line to hug the insides of each corner. Tackle a repeating S-bend in the first half of the Suzuka circuit. Be careful not to leave the road and head for the goal. Keeping a good rhythm is extremely important in an S-bend. Use the combination of acceleration and steering operations to drive rhythmically through the corner. Let go of the accelerator, turn the steering, and step on the accelerator once the car starts to change direction. Repeat this process to get through the corner. Challenge a technical section where you go from a high-speed chicane to a medium-speed corner to the right. You'll need to switch directions quickly. You can get through the right-hand corner after the chicane more quickly if you drift through it. However, if your car is angled too much and your drift angle is too severe, you will lose valuable time instead. This situation will involve coming from a high-speed section into a series of hairpin turns. This will work your braking and drifting skills. The most important action here is the braking when entering the hairpin, where you change the car's direction at the same time as decelerating. If the braking is too late, it will cause you to go wide on the hairpin, so caution is advised. If you can keep the inside position in the first hairpin, it will make it easier to approach the next hairpin. Clear the last section of Opera Paris with its narrow road and repeating tight corners. Be careful of the walls. In consecutive corners, you need to set your driving lines with the entry into the next corner always in mind. You also want to remember to be thorough, fully accelerating where you can and fully decelerating as appropriate. Test your skill on this winding, twisting piece of road. Here you will need to be highly conscious of your car's position and angle. If you want to change the direction of your car instantly, apply the brakes so that the car's load is on the front wheels and turn the steering. Remember that while you are accelerating, loads are focused on the rear end of the car and the steering response will be reduced. Try braking in a difficult situation on a turn that switches from right to left, where horizontal Gs are placed on the car. In MR cars where the engine is behind the driver's seat, it is easy to lose control if brakes are applied while the car is being pulled by horizontal Gs. Minimize steering operations and brake in a straight line as much as possible. If you can't decelerate adequately all at once, it is recommended that you brake a few times in succession. Try driving on a banked corner on the fast-paced high-speed ring, where there is a steep incline going from the inside to the outside of the track. In a banked corner, you will be able to turn much faster than in flat corners. You want to minimize your deceleration in this turn. Try tackling a right-angled box corner on the New York City course. Be especially careful not to hit the walls. In sections where corners turn in the same direction repeatedly, think of both corners as a single large corner and set 2 clipping points within the turn. This challenge is to clear a corner which loops around 270 degrees. Try to clear this as quickly as possible. You can clear this in an orthodox manner with full grip around the corner, but you can also use the characteristics of the MR to your advantage, deliberately sliding out the rear end. In this case, careful accelerator control is needed. Drive through an S-bend on an incline. Don't be distracted by the ups and downs and set your driving line through the corners accurately. The control characteristics of a car will change depending on the incline of the road, turning well while going downhill but not when going uphill. While you drive, focus on which part of the car the load is currently placed, either front or rear. Experience variations in inclines of track banking on the east course of the Motegi. Try driving while focusing on your feel for road grip. The bank changes at the point where the course shortcuts from the east course to the main course. In one small section, there is also a reverse bank which may cause you to spin out or drive off the track. Now try driving through a combined corner, involving 2 corners of different sizes. Braking from the high-speed section will be an important factor here. When you steer, horizontal Gs will be applied to the car. If you step hard on the brakes in that instance, the car will be prone to understeer and slide towards the outer side of the curve. Here you want to step on the brakes gradually, rather than suddenly applying full force. To achieve this, try pressing the brake button repeatedly. Try driving a high-powered FR car through the tight S-bend at the last part of Grand Valley. Once you go through the right corner at the start, move your line to the right and set yourself up so that you will enter the S-bend from the outside. Your car will be prone to understeer when you accelerate, so you will need to operate the accelerator carefully at the exits of each corner. Try driving through the chicane where there is a series of tight left-right turns. Make sure you decelerate sufficiently before you hit this section. It is important to finish decelerating in advance. If you do not slow down enough, you will miss the clipping point at the first right corner, and this will in turn make it difficult to set your driving line into the left corner. Go in slowly and safely and exit quickly. This is a challenge in which you will weave through a row of cones. Avoid knocking any of these over and cross the finish line. The most important part of a slalom is the coordinated operation of the steering and accelerator. Let off on the power and steer, and once the car starts changing direction, turn the steering and step on the accelerator. You'll be repeating this basic operation. Though you need to do this as fast as you can, maintaining a smooth rhythm is also important. Learn the difference that drivetrain type makes in car handling in professional mode. First up are FF cars. FF cars are straightforward, but it is a drivetrain format that is prone to understeer when accelerating. You'll need to operate the accelerator smoothly during cornering. Try a four-wheel drive car where all four wheels are connected to the drivetrain. You'll experience a high level of stability not present in two-wheel drive cars. Although four-wheel drive cars have superior mobility, they have a tendency to be heavier than other drivetrain layouts. Be careful when going too fast into a corner, as this will make you prone to understeer. Next up is an FR model, which is the popular drivetrain among sports cars. Drive through the final corner of the Tsukuba circuit to the goal. A car with an FR drivetrain is prone to oversteer when accelerating in a corner. Make sure to keep in mind that FR cars behave in a totally different manner to those with FF layouts. Try clearing a long corner that curves wide. Be careful, even a slight mistake can force you off the road. While you are on the inside of the corner, adjust your speed with the accelerator. The timing of when you can give it full power coming out of the turn is extremely important in order to maintain your speed. If you give it full acceleration too early, however, you will experience understeer and will potentially go off the track. Try tackling the S-bend in the middle section of the Swiss Alps. This tricky part of the course gets tighter the further you go in. Watch your speed here. If the right corner in the first half is entered too fast, your driving line will be forced outward and will complicate your approach to the following left corner. Slow down early for the right corner and closely hug the inner side. Cones have been lined up on the high-speed chicane on Autumn Ring. Try to clear the course as quickly as possible without hitting any cones. A characteristic of MR cars like the Elise is that they can change direction easily when letting off the accelerator. Use this to your advantage, using the accelerator and steering together to get by the cones. You'll be driving on a section where you will climb at a high speed, then descend quickly. Control your vehicle's speed so that you do not run off the track. Watch your driving line and control your speed. Your car could be forced off the track if you go into the descent with too much speed, so you will need to decelerate just before this. Take care to brake properly for the subsequent low-speed sections you will encounter. Try a blind corner where it is difficult to see the route ahead. Watch out not to brake too late. In corners that are on an incline, especially on those that are on top of an uphill climb, the exit of the corner is not visible in many cases. You'll need to predict the corner layout in advance to enable you to steer early so that you do not miss the clipping point. Challenge a high-speed S-bend on an incline. This is a blind corner, so extra care is essential here. You will need to know the shape of this corner well and set your driving line without being influenced by the ups and downs. The radius of the corner is not particularly tight, so you should be able to confidently cut across the cornerstone on the inside. Take on the carousel, the famous corner at Nürburgring. Use the inner bank to your advantage. Once in the banked section of the corner, control your speed with the accelerator to avoid being pushed outwards. Once the exit out of the corner is visible, give it full power. Challenge the corkscrew, the infamous highly inclined chicane of the Laguna Seca. Master one of the most dynamic corners in the world of racing. The descent is extremely steep, but it is driven like a standard chicane, connecting the insides of every corner to drive in the shortest line. However, because visibility is bad due to the incline, make sure you do not steer too late into the right corner in the last half. Master the spoon corner on the Suzuka circuit, a combined corner that starts to turn sharply as you enter. Think of sections with two consecutive corners going in the same direction as a single large corner and hit the clipping points on the insides of each corner. Master the victory corner on the twin-ring Motegi circuit, where a large corner to the left and a tight corner to the right are combined. The tip to improving your time here is to use the small amount of time you have when your car is driving straight to decelerate. You could, of course, do this midway through the left corner, but you'll be more likely to lose control of your car in the turn. Challenge a combined corner at the last section of the Fuji circuit. Try to find a line that will allow you to clear the corner quickly. Here you'll need to raise your exit speed out of the corner as much as possible. In combined corners like this, where the corner turns tighter later on, you want to set your clipping point further into the corner. Challenge the high-speed section that continues from the Porsche curves of the Saat circuit. Be careful, even a small mistake here will cause you to crash. The driving line is extremely important here. Think of corners in sections, not one by one, and try for a driving line that minimizes steering angles. Attempt to overtake opponents on the Fuji Speedway home straight. The key to success here is the use of slipstreams. When driving behind an opponent, air resistance is reduced and as a result your car will increase speed. This effect is known as the slipstream. Once you are in the slipstream and your car's speed is increased, time your slipstream exit carefully and you can overtake your opponent. Overtake opponents by the exit of the first corner. Make your move at the corner entry point. On the straight, increase your speed using your opponent's slipstream. The speed of your opponent will be too high for you to overtake on the straight, so move to the inside of the corner at the entry point and get ahead of your opponent by braking slightly late. This maneuver is known as the late braking technique. Pass two opponents while negotiating repeating technical corners. Do your best to avoid leaving the track. The optimal approach here is to try and pass the first car on the first corner and the second car on the final corner. The Mini Cooper does not have a lot of power to call upon, so control your speed mostly by letting off the accelerator and avoid slowing down too much using braking. You will need to make the most of every opportunity in this challenge. Tackle the final section of the Trial Mountain circuit. Overtake two opponents before the finish line. It is vital to correctly judge where you make your move here, but maintaining the highest possible speed through this section is also important to clear this challenge. The left-hand blind corner in the first tunnel is an important point. Don't go to the inside of the corner immediately, but set your driving line to hit the clipping point further into the corner. A clash of American sports cars on the Seattle City circuit. Overtake three opponents before the finish line. Whilst good driving technique is important on this circuit, a large part of the challenge here is learning to handle the high-powered Ford GT itself. You will be prone to oversteer, especially on corner entry, so careful steering is essential. It is also recommended to complete all braking maneuvers whilst driving in a straight line wherever possible. Overtake three opponents before the finish line using the Volkswagen W12 Nardo concept. Although this car is stable when cornering, it will tend to exhibit some understeer. You will need to take additional care when exiting corners rather than at the entry, and carefully control your speed so that you do not lose control and leave the track. Overtake your rival while negotiating low to mid-speed corners. Time your opportunities carefully. Immediately upon starting this challenge, you will be in a high-speed section, and your success will depend on following your opponents as closely as possible. If you can close the distance, you should be able to overtake them during braking for the following tight corner. Overtake your rival before the finish line, driving a 1962 Skyline Coupe. As this is an older car with lower power, good driving technique is essential. Stick right behind your opponents on the straights to build up speed and attempt your pass at the entry to the chicanes. Pass two opponents before the goal in the Dodge Viper SRT 10. Don't be distracted by the ups and downs of the track. Although there are steep inclines here, The width of the course is such that good driving lines will allow you to pass without too much difficulty. Take your first opponent in the first half and your second opponent in the later hairpin turn. Attempt to overtake two opponents on the Paris City course. The course is narrow, so be very careful not to hit the walls. While it will be tempting to overtake on the straight, it is recommended to pass opponents at the entry to the corner. Delay your braking to force yourself to the inside of the track, but you must be careful not to hit the trackside wall or other cars due to the reduced width of the road. Attempt to overtake three opponents in muscle cars with a 1969 Corvette. Use advanced driving skills to beat this challenge. Muscle cars are very powerful, but their weakness lies in their increased weight. In a layout like the New York City circuit, if you do not decelerate enough for the corners, your driving line will be pushed to the outside of the track and you will be forced into the walls. Bear in mind that steering response will be slower than in lightweight sports cars, so you will need to start steering earlier. Attempt to overtake three rival cars on the midsection of the Nürburgring. The Nürburgring is one of the most challenging tracks on which to pass opponents due to its narrow width and continuous corners. It will not be easy to pass three opponents before the finish line and will require a high level of driving skill. One piece of advice is to try and maintain as much tyre grip as possible. This is especially so when using TCS. If the tyres slide out, you will lose traction and acceleration. Drive with a focus on grip as much as possible and fully utilize the traction of the GTR to your advantage. Challenge the mainstay of the dirt track, the hairpin corner. Here you can get a feel for power sliding. Enter the corner while changing the car's direction by braking and steering, and once the car starts to turn inward, throw the car into a power slide by applying the accelerator hard. You'll need to be bold to execute this maneuver correctly. Challenge the special rotary corner of the New York City course. Try to find the optimal driving line and head for the goal. Your accelerator work once you enter the rotary section is important. You want to maintain the maximum acceleration without allowing the car to slide outwards. Take on the series of corners and hairpin turns in the middle section of the Grand Canyon course. Consider the two corners as a single corner and drive so that you just nick the insides of both. It is best if you can clear this while maintaining a drift. Try cornering from a part of the track that causes the car to become airborne. Approach carefully so that you do not lose control on landing. To safely clear the jumping spot, your car must be in a straight orientation. Even with the corner approaching, you want to exit out in as straight a line as possible. This is an uneven S-bend that goes from a mild right turn to a hard left. Keep your car drifting to clear the corner quickly. To change the direction of a car while drifting, skillful application of the brakes is needed. While braking, turn the steering towards the direction you want to face, then apply the accelerator. This series of operations should be performed quickly. Using the Mine Skyline, try taking on the high-speed section of the first half of Grand Valley. Reach the goal once you are out of the hairpin turn. Due to the higher vehicle speed here, the key is in how quickly you clear the high-speed corners in the first half. You'll be able to save some time if you are able to ride your tyre over the cornerstone on the inside of the last left-hand turn. Drive the legendary Lamborghini Countach LP400 through a wide, medium-speed left corner. Be careful not to spin out or run off the track. The Countach is a powerful car, but responds naturally and is relatively easy to drive. Control your speed in the corners by adjusting the length of time you hold down the accelerator. Try driving through continuous 90-degree turns characteristic of urban areas in the midsection of the New York City course. Try not to hit the walls. In the latter half, there will be blind corners where you cannot see out of the turn. Be mindful of the next corner coming up and turn rhythmically through the corners. Try clearing a high-speed S-bend on an incline using the Celine S7. Be careful not to hit the walls. The key is in the braking. The back end is prone to sliding out, so whenever possible, try to brake in a straight line when there are no horizontal Gs being applied. Using the Cizeta V16T at the Infineon Raceway, challenge a difficult descending corner that turns wide to the left. To drive fast, you need to fully utilize the width of the course and find a driving line that will allow you to fully accelerate as early as possible. The ideal clipping point is at the latter half of the corner. Drive the middle section of deep forest in the Zonda. Carefully control this machine to reach the finish line. As this is a high-powered car, you will be prone to oversteer in the corners. Don't focus simply on maintaining full grip, rather anticipate that the car will slide and use this to your advantage. Drive the last part of the Côte d'Azur where it changes from a high-speed section to an ultra-low-speed section. Master the Enzo Ferrari. Be careful. You may experience oversteer when you let off the accelerator. The key point here is the high-speed section in the first half. Use the entire width of the course right up to the guardrails and try to set yourself a line that minimizes the steering angle. Challenge a slippery road with snow. First, try getting used to the track surface and reach the goal without spinning out or crashing. On snow-covered roads, the response of a car to control input will be delayed even more than on dirt. You will need to perform every operation early and with even more care. Immediately after starting is an icy road, followed by a snow-covered section of road. Feel the difference in the car's movements. You will get more grip on ice than on snow-covered surfaces, but the snow on the edges of the road is very slippery. It would be advisable to complete deceleration before entering the snow section. Clear the series of hairpin turns by changing direction while drifting. Try to focus on which wheels are taking the load. Your skills previously gained on dirt surfaces will apply here, with a focus on changing direction with brake and accelerator control. Once the car does go into a slide, be very careful with application of the accelerator. Try this difficult winding section of road. Its extremely narrow width makes it tricky to maneuver. When drifting in narrow sections, accelerator control becomes extremely important. As snow-covered roads are slippery, too much acceleration will cause oversteer and limit forward movement. While drifting, you must remember not to apply acceleration more than necessary. Take on a mild S-bend going in from a high-speed corner in the snow. Be careful not to hit the walls. Fine drift control is of course needed, but an appropriate driving line is the most important factor. If you are careful not to go too wide at the exit of the left high-speed corner, it will make your approach into the later S-bend easier. Try a consecutive hairpin turn starting from a difficult chicane. Switch directions quickly and watch your rhythm. As this is a descent all the way through, it is easy to initiate a drift, but then it is conversely a situation where you are prone to oversteer. You must be extra careful on the accelerator once the car goes into the drift. This challenge involves approaching a blind corner, where you start braking is a vital factor for success. If you do not decelerate enough here, the car will simply leave the track. Use the driving line as a reference to learn the distance between the braking point and the corner. Try running a relatively mild combined corner at the beginning of Grand Canyon. You will reach your goal after clearing 3 corners. Even in the dirt, driving lines are still important. Especially in the last half, visibility of the corners is reduced due to the incline. The key here to attaining a good time is to effectively use the whole width of the road when setting your driving line. This will greatly reduce the potential of speed loss. Drive the last section of Amalfi, a section with a series of tight hairpins. Clear the 3 hairpin corners while being careful not to hit the walls. Try to keep the corner entry speed down here. Remember to go out, in, out and decelerate early, and make sure the line allows you to just clip the inside of the turns. Master the middle section of the El Capitan track with its large up and down inclines. It is hard to find a driving line here, so quick reflexes are essential. To save time at the S-bend immediately after the tunnel, you'll need to turn right early before you even see the corner. You should aim to skim the face of the rocks as you clear the turn. Master a difficult consecutive corner with ups and downs, something you'll only find on a dirt track. You'll need to make fast judgments and have quick reflexes here. Bad visibility here will delay braking, so remember to brake early in anticipation. It is also advisable to avoid extended drifting in corners and utilize the four-wheel drive's traction to clear the corner at a sharp angle to reduce your overall time. Take on the narrow twisting sections of an Italian city street in a Fiat Punto. Here you'll need quick judgment and precise control. To drive fast, you need to drive right next to the walls, but the narrow road will necessitate great care. It will be important to know the width of the car, and so you need to remember to be thorough, fully accelerating where you can and fully decelerating where appropriate. On the Suzuka circuit, overtake opponents in the area between the 130R and the chicane. Make your move as you enter the chicane. Until the exit of the 130R, use slipstreaming to raise your speed. When entering the chicane, be careful not to delay your braking too much. It is also important here to take your position on the inside of the corner to block your opponents. On the high-speed ring, pass your opponents between the final corner and the straight. Use slipstreams to your advantage. If you are immediately behind your opponent at the final corner, you will be able to overtake on the straight. The key here is to raise your speed as much as possible in their slipstream. Overtake two opponents on the high-speed section of the Tokyo Route 246. As there are mainly mid to high-speed corners here, it will be safer for you to use slipstreams and try to overtake on the straights. The course width is wide, but there are very few effective driving lines, so it will be important to choose where to pass carefully. Overtake two opponents on the Seoul City course. Pass opponent cars by utilizing the wide track to your advantage. The important thing here is the acceleration from the first corner. It is followed immediately by a long straight, so you will want to accelerate early coming out and raise your speed as much as possible. You will be able to use bold driving lines here because of the wide course width. See where your opponents are going and strategically plan your move. This is a one-lap sprint race on the Tsukuba circuit. Overtake three opponents before the finish line. There are 4 overtaking points on the Tsukuba circuit. These are the first corner, at the 2 hairpins, and the area between the back straight and final corner. In the first 3, you can delay your braking and go inside to overtake, while in the last, you will want to utilize your opponent's slipstream to get ahead. This is a one-lap match on the Grand Valley Speedway, a technical course 3.38 miles in length. Overtake 3 opponents before the finish line. Due to the high number of corners on the Grand Valley Speedway, it would seem that there would be many overtaking opportunities, but actually there are only a few points where you can pass opponents safely. The tight corner after the straight, where you need to rapidly decelerate, is a great place to overtake opponents by delaying braking and taking the inside position through the corner. Driving the Toyota GT1, overtake the Mercedes CLK GTR before the finish line. This race takes place at Twin Ring Motegi. There are only 4 corners until the goal, but you need to take your chance at the section between the S-bend and the V-shaped corner. Get as close as you can in the first part and move to pass your opponent at the entry to the V corner. This is a face-off between the two supercars from Ferrari and Lamborghini. Attempt to pass the Enzo Ferrari before the finish line. As there are only a few places where you can pass, it will be important to carefully time where you make your move. Narrow your distance to your opponents as much as possible until the exit of the chicane and overtake at the entry into the final corner. Be especially careful not to hit the walls. Overtake two opponents in the Ford GT LM race car before the finish line. If you see an opportunity to pass, go for it. It will be tricky to see the route ahead due to the ups and downs on this track, so you will need to predict your upcoming racing line. If you can accelerate smoothly, you will be able to narrow your gap on the straight, and it will give you more opportunity to overtake your opponents. Be careful when decelerating within a turn, as the Ford GT is prone to oversteer while the car is experiencing horizontal Gs. Overtake two opponents in the midsection of the Laguna Seca Raceway. The corkscrew is where your skill will shine through. As there are mainly mid to high speed corners on this circuit, it will be important to fully utilize slipstreams in the first half. Aim to pass one opponent in the first half and your second opponent at the corkscrew. Overtake three opponents on the Circuit de la Sarthe. Can you take the lead in this 200 mph plus race? With the long straight here, you will need to overtake using slipstreams. At the two chicanes, you want to focus on your corner exit speed rather than entry. Even when you do get ahead of your opponents, you must maintain concentration. Check their position in your rearview mirror and make sure that they do not overtake you. Overtake three opponents on the difficult Nürburgring course. Will you come out on top in this ultra-thrilling race? As usual, take advantage of slipstreams to raise your speed. Although there is a high number of corners on the Nürburgring, the track is narrow, so you don't want to push your luck and be selective on where to pass. Driving lines through high-speed corners need to be judged very carefully. So if you are looking to overtake, you are recommended to do so at low-speed corners that require hard braking. This is the beginning of a long journey. First, try the mid to low-speed sections, with corners that switch quickly left and right. In an S-bend that switches left to right, you need to operate the steering and perform rhythmic application of the accelerator. Make sure to clip the inside cornerstone with your tyre. Next is a long high-speed full acceleration section, with a high-speed corner waiting at the end. Watch out for the jump right after the start. It will be safer if you slow down just before launching from the jumping spot. If you refrain from braking too long when entering into the tight corner before the goal, you may not lose enough speed. Always aim for a slow in, fast out technique. This is a section where there are dynamic inclines, followed by a tight chicane. It is easy to crash here, so make sure to be in control of your speed. The left corner just after the climb will be easy to clear if you ride over the inside cornerstone. The chicane in the latter half is very tight, so you'll need to make sure to brake. This is a series of tough mid to low speed blind corners. There are also changes in banking and incline, so careful control of your car's orientation is essential. The key to this challenge is in the ascending left corner at the middle of this section. You will be able to increase your exit speed out of the corner if you avoid going to the inside of the corner immediately and set your clipping point further into the corner so that your line out of the corner is mild. A tight hairpin turn follows a mid to high speed blind corner. You'll need to be especially aware of your speed here. At the wide mid-speed corner turning to the right, if you decelerate slightly before you enter the corner, it will make your line in the latter half a little easier. At the hairpin that follows, it will be too late if you start braking after the corner is visible. You'll want to brake early and approach the hairpin with your car going straight and under full control. This is a dynamic section that goes from a light descent to a steep upward incline. Focus on your timing for turning into the corner. Understeering is a common problem at the corner in this section. You'll want to steer early to make sure you are able to hit the clipping point on the cornerstone at the inside of the turn. Be careful at the final corner where late braking can make your driving line flare outwards. An ascending full acceleration section continues for some time. The corners are gradual, but the road is bumpy, so be careful. Try to keep your steering as straight as possible on the straights here. The tight right corner before the goal is a place that you can easily leave the track if you are not careful. So once you see the corner, start braking early. After the famous carousel, the track cuts back and forth between left and right corners. The many ups and downs require fine control. At the blind corner in the first half, be careful not to turn in too late and make sure to clip the inside cornerstone. The last half is a descent, so be careful not to leave the track as your car will tend to speed up and understeer will become more prominent. This section contains a series of steep inclines and mid-speed corners. You'll pass through the famous gallery corner here. The ascending corner is essentially blind, so be careful not to turn in too late. At the jumping spot just before the goal, it will be safer if you step on the brake just before launching. After a high-speed descending corner, you will encounter a jump. Be careful not to lose control of your car on landing. The major points to watch for in this section are the jumping spot and the tight corner to the right that immediately follows. If you brake slightly just before the jump, it will reduce your chances of leaving the track on landing and will enable you to safely clear the following right-hand corner. This is the high-speed section near the end. The road is bumpy on the first half, so stay in control of your car's orientation. At the consecutive corners to the right and left after the straight, if you set your driving line out in going into the first right corner, it will make the approach to the following left corner easier. This final section starts off with a long straight. Once you are past the last obstacle, the chicane, you have reached the finish line. When braking into the chicane, if you have horizontal Gs left over when you brake, it will destabilize your car. If you are not yet fully used to the controls, you may want to try decelerating in 2 steps from an earlier position rather than decelerating all at once.